Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Ishan, and I'd like to welcome you to Lecture 14, which is presented by Ich which is Australia's first multilingual dialogue and publication center, where the focus is not just on academic and reliable literature, but also on reliable actual fieldwork by people who have experienced what is happening in the society. Together with academia and with people on the field, we plan to solve the social issues that our society is facing. Now, today's lecture is going to focus on the news that has just come in about India banning Chinese apps, including TikTok. So, we are going to analyze what's exactly happening, why it probably is happening, and what are the details and what's the story behind this. So let's see what's happening first of all. So about the ban, 59 Chinese apps have been banned in India. The key reason that was given is it's because of breach of privacy and security concerns. And interestingly, the one that's very popular with a lot of Indians and even around the world, TikTok is going to be banned as well. I should say is banned now. So this is the little background that's going on. Now, let's straight away come to a few points to ponder. I'm going to raise a few questions, give a few facts, and then it'll be nice to have a little discussion. Let me know what all of you feel, what you think, if you come up with certain points as well, or you would like to add on to something that I've said. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Write in the comment box as well, because what happens is if you write in the YouTube comment section, other people around the world can interact with you as well, not just I. So that way we can have a better communication and a larger, broader conversation. So the first point to ponder is 59 Chinese apps have been banned in India. Okay, we understand that, but now the fact is there are approximately 2,500 Chinese apps in total on the Android and the iOS platform. So although a lot of Indians and a lot of people are going to see this as a war or an attack on Chinese apps, and they might feel that maybe China might suffer because of these apps being banned. Whether it will or will not is another discussion, but let's get the numbers right. 59 apps have been banned, but it's not all Chinese apps that are on the system. So people still have access to the remaining apps. A total of 2,500 apps are on the platforms on Google Play Store and on the iOS platform for Apple, which are Chinese. So 59 out of 2,500. That's the first thing to think about. Okay. The other points to ponder are now there are approximately 120,000, so that is 1.2 lakh Indian owned or Indian based apps on iOS platforms for Apple and Google Store combined. And there are total and approximately 3.5 million apps on Android in total. So Indian apps are doing pretty well if you look at the numbers. 120,000 out of 3.5 million is a pretty impressive number. In fact, 3.5% of all the apps available on the two platforms that I just mentioned are from India. Now, if people like to compare, I'm providing you with the numbers for the comparison. So 3.5% of all the apps are from India, are from Indian owners, but less than 1% of the apps are from China, or from Chinese owners in China, of course. The same goes for app publishers. Now, see, there could be 10 apps, but the owner of all those 10 apps could be one publisher. So we also need to see who is publishing those particular apps. So if we look at the publishers, we know that 3% of all the app publishers around the world are from India. So even if you feel it's a single digit number, I will say it's pretty impressive. So 3.5% of all apps and 3% of all app publishers come from India. They're based in India. You want to compare that with China once again? Well, based on Chinese app publishers, they only form 1% of the total app publishers that exist. So a few notes, a few percentages for you to compare to get a little different perspective as well, because I know a lot of media is now going to focus purely on TikTok being banned and Chinese apps being banned and how this is a victory, etc., etc. But we need to look into a few more numbers to get a deeper understanding, to get a broader perspective as well. So let me know what you think about these particular numbers. And never just try to keep it close. Don't say this is good, this is bad, end of the story. If it's 3.5% coming from India, then we are doing better than China in that place. Wonder why? Why is that possible? Is there some other reason? In fact, I'm going to talk about that other reason very soon. And here we go. So, although if we go back here, we see less than 1% of all the apps come from China, less than 1% are China-based publishers. Even if that's the case, here we go. What do we see in this case? China may not have a large number of total apps, but that, and I asked you, right, like what could the reason be? This is the reason. They have their own massive app stores. So we know the app stores that are common, popular with us is the Apple App Store, and the Android users are the Google App Store. Google App Store and Apple App Store. So these are the two, and we have the Android, of course. So Android, Google, and Apple. Sorry, the three main ones. But apart from these particular app stores, if we are in most parts of the world, we don't have access to other app stores. Or if some of us do, it's not very popular either. But in China, they have their own app stores. So one is called APK Pureco, the other one is called APK GK. These app stores are bigger than Android, Google, Apple. So these are much, much larger. And that's where most of the Chinese made apps are going. So some of those are not even available outside, but people in China are accessing those. So what we saw before was based on the popular platforms. But if we expand the horizon and try to understand the other platforms that exist as well, like APK Pureco or APK GK, these app stores are way, way bigger. And if those are also considered, then Chinese apps or publishers are nearly 40% of that around the world. So the numbers just change from less than 1% to more than 40%. Uh, but another point to ponder now is I agree that China has their own app stores and platforms for the apps, but usually these app stores are only available for those platforms with low quality cookie based applications which have no code or low code mobile development platform. So technical, this is a technical language, but to tell you in layman's term, they're of low quality, low security, slower. They depend a lot on the cookie data, so the interface is going to have a lot of lag as well. So it's not very high, and there is a high incidence of data breach and your privacy being breached as well. So that's one of the concerns on those apps. Now, that concern overflows. That concern is also seen with Indian apps. Now, we've seen that India is dominating the apps a lot. We have a lot of India-based apps, more than 3.5%, more than 3 or 4% of publishers as well. But again, many of those are again low grade. So what India is lacking right now, and here we go. So later on after the ban, if we're looking at substitute apps, if people are going to go for Indian-based apps, the question is, do we have the infrastructure in place? Do we have the avenues or the incentives for developers that will get the app level higher? We do know that India overall is investing a lot in Digital India campaign. They're investing a lot in new startups, agreed, and the numbers are very clear. The numbers tell us that it is working, it's not fraudulent, but the question is not about quantity, the question is about quality. So something to think about as well. Now let's look at a few substitutes. Okay, 59 Chinese apps will be banned. TikTok, goodbye TikTok. Okay, not gonna have, we're gonna miss you. I'm not gonna miss you. I didn't use it, but some people are gonna miss TikTok. So do we have substitute? Do we have rival? So Mitro, Mitro, and Mitro was an app, or is an app actually, which is a good substitute. It was developed or formed by Shivank Agrawal and Anish Khandelwal. They have over 1 lakh downloads. This is based in India by Indians, but it has only 1 lakh downloads. 1 lakh is not a big number when it comes to app downloads for Indian app. And one of the reasons is WhatsApp. A lot of WhatsApp forwards blamed this particular app for taking technology or buying the base or the infrastructure from Pakistan. Now, there are going to be different arguments whether it should be done or it shouldn't be done. Okay, this video is not the place to argue whether India should or should not buy technology from Pakistan. It's about the facts. This was a baseless fact. It wasn't true. Okay, so but just because of this rumor that was spread on WhatsApp, we call it the WhatsApp university nowadays, isn't it? Fake university, all fake messages. This app really struggled, although it was based in India. So Mitro is a good substitute, but then we don't have a strong substitute from India for TikTok with regards to the user interface and the experience or the quality and the speed. We have other substitutes which are from foreign countries, so from other parts of the world outside India. So we are looking at Dubsmash or Dubmash, which is German. It has over 100 million downloads, so that's a close competitor. Then we got something called Thriller. It's from the US. It has got more than 10 million downloads. We got Funnymate, again from the US, which has got more than 10 million downloads. Likey is from Singapore. It has got more than 50 million downloads. Likey is being banned in India. I don't know. You and I, let us investigate more why this is happening. Likey is not from China, so I have no idea why Indian government is calling that a Chinese app, or why it is in the list of Chinese apps that are being banned in India. Likey is not Chinese, it is from Singapore. And then we got Cheese. It's now renamed into Kakao Talk Cheese. So regardless, it is Chinese. It has got more than 10 million downloads. I cannot find this app in the list of banned apps, 59 banned apps on the list. And this is a close substitute. So this is not a global problem, but for those people who want to support Indian apps, want to move away from Chinese apps, they might end up with Kakao Talk or Cheese, which is a close substitute for TikTok. Why is this not banned? I don't know. Maybe it's one of those other 2,450 or more, 2,400 apps which haven't been banned. Maybe it's one of those. But why is Likey banned? So these are a few questions. Maybe we'll get answers in days to follow. How do all these apps measure up against TikTok? Some have more than 100 million downloads. Some have more than 50 million downloads. TikTok has over 1 billion downloads, the billion club, more than 1 billion downloads, out of which 100 million come from India. And this is where TikTok's going to be hit really hard. 100 million downloads coming from India out of those 1 billion downloads. Now, and that's where China might really get hit hard with regards to the app alone. The trade is big. There's a lot of trade that goes on between the countries. Digital trade is just one part, but India has taken a bold step over here. Now, there are a few points to ponder. There are some security concerns with the regards to the apps. I said before, the reason why the Indian ministry has said they're banning the apps, it's not because of trade war. It's not because of the border tensions happening between India and China. Well, that could be the reason. We all know it's clearly the reason, but the reason that has been given is privacy issues, security concerns. So when we say security and privacy, data breach concerns, what does that mean? It basically means there could be sexual content on the apps which is not regulated. There could be child predators, so people who lure young children to use the apps and show them inappropriate, illegal content. There could be a breach of your privacy and user data as well. That literally means your data is being used by other companies. I will expand on that very soon. But basically, your full name, your date of birth, your bank details, and the way you use the app, your spending, expenditures, your patterns, of consumption, they could be actually tracked and traced. Some of your passwords could be hacked as well. They could actually enter your system. So that's what we say is breach of privacy or user data. But we'll see that later on. We'll see a bit more about it very soon. And now let's talk about data safety, just because I said so. Now, see, remember one thing: if you're online, even if you're using Gmail, no matter what you're using, if you're online, you're not safe. So if you really want 100% safety, you need to live an Amish life, okay? No internet, no technology, no phones, nothing. If you're using technology some way or the other in different proportions, okay, you are exposing yourself to data breach and exposure of your privacy, okay, of your account. So there is always that little scare that will always be there no matter what you do. Remember that, okay? If you're on Facebook, if you're on Instagram, and you get rid of TikTok, well, Facebook, Instagram are using your data anyway, okay? Now, let's bear in mind what's the problem of data being used. And many people feel, oh, my information is getting stolen, it's the end of the world. It's not. See, many big companies use our data. Like I said, they use our spending pattern, date of birth, to analyze the market. See, market analysis is a big thing. How do bigger corporations know what product to launch? How do they know what you and I will like? How are they able to get something so attractive that it becomes a hit? It's because of detailed analysis. It's not without knowing how we spend, what we are, where we are. So getting that data is actually helping them for marketing purposes, for selling, for coming up with smarter strategies, for coming up with nice pricing strategy, to come up to just to gain some insights about the trends happening in the market. That's the major part why it happens. Okay, some people still don't like it, but that's the major reason why your data is being used, why you're not, your privacy is at stake. And then the other side, which is minor, it's still there, but it's not as significant as the other one when it comes to usage of data. And that is, your photos getting leaked and your private moments getting leaked out to the public, and showing, like I said, sexual content being showed to kids, which is not safe. So that's the other part. Or your bank passwords getting stolen and your credit cards getting stolen. So that happens, it's there. But if it's there, if it's here, then the information that is used for marketing purposes is that much, way above. Okay, so bear that in mind. So don't just get panicked, and it's not the end of the world. In fact, the new problem that I see and that I like to discuss is, see, when these bigger companies are being banned, smaller ones will become the substitutes. The problem with smaller ones are, we don't know who the owners are clearly, we don't know their backgrounds, and then we don't know whom to hold accountable, whom to hold liable if our information gets stolen. If Google is stealing our information, we know, Google, it's you. We can have a big lawsuit as well. Okay, a mass lawsuit against them. People could have, everyone could gang up and say, Google, this is not on, or we're going to boycott you. It's easier because they're a huge company. They are under the scanner of everyone. They're under scrutiny. But if it's a small company based in a small village, in a small town, it's an app based over there, how do we know that user is not going to use that app just to steal your information, get your bank details, go on a shopping spree, close the app, no one knows where that person is, goes missing, doesn't have a real name either. So that's the concern we have to be careful about. Yes, it's fine to boycott these bigger companies, but then if you're going for substitutes and you don't know how reliable the substitutes are, watch out. Because bigger companies will mostly, I'm not saying all the time, mostly use your data for marketing purposes, to understand the market trends, to come up with new products. Of course, it's used in a lot of lobbying and in election vote banks as well. But if you're using the smaller ones, watch out. That's where the actual fraudulent activities might happen. So my little tiny open-ended conclusion for everyone. So let's have a little open-ended conclusion and more points to take forward. The first one is this ban really for safety concerns, or is it an e-commerce and trade war? The second point is, now yes, China will be hit hard as it depends on the Indian market for the app download significantly. But is this what we really want? Are there any Indian apps that are used in China which are not a part of the Google, Android, or the Apple platform? So that is something to look into as well. Now, the other reason why China will be hit hard in this particular move, and we have to see, Indians have to see how China is going to respond, and that is because India is the world #1 country right now for the monthly number of apps being installed and the number of app users around the world. So it's the #1 country, which means many countries around the world are looking at the Indian market, okay, to publish and to market their apps. So to ban something is really going to take a hard hit on certain countries and on certain apps. So that is something to think about. The other part is, if data breach was the real reason why this has happened, if data breach and user privacy are the real concerns, what about other Indian, German, and American apps? So why aren't we hearing much about other Indian apps, other American apps, other German apps who also pose a threat to the privacy of people and the breach of data? So is this really a problem of data breach and users' privacy, or is it a e-commerce and digital trade war that India is getting into with China? Another part to ponder is that India does have the app numbers. We have a huge number of apps made in India. We have a lot of app users as well, but app publishers as well. But what we have to see is most of the users of Indian apps are in India. So if India really wants to go international, we have to make sure, Indians have to make sure that their apps are used internationally as well in large numbers, as much as they are used within India. The other question to think about is, why aren't Indian-owned apps gaining international popularity? It's a follow-on question. So apps are very popular in India, but why aren't they getting really that international popularity as well. The other part is WhatsApp. So WhatsApp forwards are killing local apps like Metro, for example. It's creating a prejudice as well. And not just that, the name of this particular app. It's very clear why Metro is the name of the app. It's to attract a particular political lobby group, but at the same time, it's going to alienate the other group as well. So app developers also have to be careful with the type of names that they give to their apps, and whether those apps are really going to gain that international momentum as some Chinese apps have. So that is something to think about as well. The timing of the ban is a little questionable. It's very clear to me this is not just because of data privacy concerns or data breach. This is clearly a trade war that's a digital one. So I question the timing of this particular ban. You see, when India went into a lockdown, it would have been a perfect time to ban this particular apps, because then people would have looked for substitutes, and when they were sitting at home, and they could have really gained the numbers for the local Indian apps. Now what's going to happen? The lockdown's easing, people are getting back to work. TikTok is anyway going to have less usage compared to what it was during the lockdown, and the substitutes people are going to go for won't get that pickup and momentum as they would have if this particular ban happened during the lockdown. So the timing is a bit questionable, or maybe let's say it was just it wasn't really planned that from a trade war point of view. Let's give them that benefit of doubt. The next part we need to consider is the other businesses that rely on these particular apps. So a lot of businesses sponsor these apps, and they have their advertisements pop up when you use the apps, right? They depend a lot on their revenue, their advertising, people getting information about them, and getting new users to sign up as well. So those businesses that rely on these apps for advertising are also going to suffer. We also need to think about those Indian-based businesses and corporates who use these particular Chinese apps that are now being banned for official communication purposes, and also for their own advertising. So now they have to have a new strategy. They have to invest more money into new ways of approaching people through apps that are not among these banned apps. To conclude, a few other points that we need to think about. I've said this before. What about the other apps that haven't been banned? We need to question the privacy issues in those as well. And then the next last part is, if in India we don't have a proper structure with our local apps, and what if people, instead of going to the local apps, actually end up moving to more American and German apps? Is your data safe with those apps as well? That's a big question. So these are so many points to think about. It's not just banning of apps, it's about which apps are getting banned, what about the other apps, who relies on them, other businesses that rely on them, what's China's response going to be, can India really make benefit out of this situation, and is your data really safe after all? Does India really have that infrastructure? What about the quality of the apps as well, not just the quantity? So these are so many things to think about and follow up. Make sure you write your comments on the YouTube section. Lastly, going back to the Metro app and how it really suffered because of fake WhatsApp forwards. There are a lot of local businesses that suffer because of just fake WhatsApp forwards. So how to avoid this? First of all, don't rely on headlines. Okay, many times headlines are deceiving. The aim of headlines is to appeal to people, to make sure people click. They do not represent the real news. So always try to read the news in detail. Don't just rely on the headlines, because then you'll end up having an opinion about a company or a brand which may be biased, or it could be based on incorrect information. Don't rely on WhatsApp forwards. Even some WhatsApp forwards have links given. Don't rely on them, because most of the times those links are not reliable, and half the time the content in the WhatsApp forward is different to the link. So what happens is they make people believe that it is authentic. They write all fake information and give a real link. So the link is real, but the link has different information compared to the fake information in the forward. So be very careful. Don't rely on screenshots, because you don't know where the screenshot has come. Is it actually done on Word or done in a fake manner and then a screenshot's taken? Don't rely on the screenshots. It's always best to go to the real original source. Now, I'm going to help you out with just tiny part. If you really like to know if a particular app is from India, or if you want to know which country it is from, or if you want to know about a company, okay, or a business, and you want to know where that business is from, who are the owners of the business, instead of relying on WhatsApp forwards, instead of relying on fake information, all it's going to take is 1 minute of your time. 60 seconds, that's all you need. And in those 60 seconds, you will get authentic information. How? Visit the website that I've given. So straight away go to Google, Ministry of Corporate Affairs, Government of India. Government of India's Ministry of Foreign Affairs website will come up. On the front page, on the home page, you will see a search box. In the search box, click the name of the company. You will get the result. You will come to know who the owner is, where the company's headquarters are. You will have all the information which is reliable directly from the government's database. That's all it takes. So if you want to know what you're using, if you want to know more about the origin, whether you go for local or you go for international, it's your choice. But make sure you check and you're aware of the authentic origins of those companies. So thank you very much. Hope this was useful. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel and click on the bell icon, without which you will not get any updates about my videos. And make sure you comment and engage with the larger population around the world as well. So this was lecture 14. Thank you very much. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.